Hey friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Jada Janai Bennett, and I am an illustrator, writer, and soft sculptor based in Brooklyn who still works a normal 9-to-5 job. I make art for all ages, but a lot of my work lately has been centered around kids. So I've been doing lots of things like picture books, middle grade graphic novels, and comics. This is my first official video on this channel, and I'm really excited to start with a subject that means so much to me and is something that I wish that I would have heard when I was just starting out, which is how I became a represented illustrator. Back in December of 2022, I was pretty much ready to give up on the whole art as a career thing. I just graduated from art school and I was already working a 9-to-5 to help pay my very real and very looming student loans. I had just kind of put it in my mind that making money from my art wasn't going to be realistic or wasn't for me. At the time, I was mostly making illustration work without any clear industry direction. I loved drawing, I loved making characters, but I didn't really see a future where those things translated into a job. I graduated in 2021, so this was right in the middle of the peak of the pandemic, and I think I was home on like a holiday break. And then out of nowhere, while I was literally rotting in my bed, I get a message on Instagram. They wrote, "Your work is outstanding. Sugarloaf is authentic, beautifully drawn, and we just love the aesthetic of your work and your vibe. Are you interested in writing for the kids market? Middle grade novels or graphic novels?" They'd found me on a site called Women Who Draw that I'd signed up for years earlier. I actually never saw my profile populate on the page, so I just assumed that nothing ever came of it and just kind of forgot about it. So when they reached out to me, I was truly astounded and thought that they were bots out to steal my social security number. Now, Sugarloaf was a senior thesis project that I had done in undergrad just for a comics class that I was taking. It was my first time working with taking my characters and putting them together into a way that felt cohesive and had story trajectory and all of that, and I was very new to it. So I did this comic and I put it out on my website. And this is the project that essentially got their attention. Now, at the point that they reached out to me, my work looked like this. And I feel like it's really important to highlight that storytelling was very, very new to me. It all felt very unnatural, incredibly intimidating, and honestly, very terrifying. I actually remember crying on New Year's Day in 2023 because the imposter syndrome had hit me like a ton of bricks. I was convinced that they were going to realize that they made a mistake and was completely overwhelmed at the possibility of taking myself seriously as an artist. But fast forward to today, and here's what's happened. I illustrated my first children's book, I Like Hoops, which was published by Holiday House in 2025. I worked on multiple pitches for picture books and middle grade graphic novels. I delivered concept art for Magic Cat Publishing. I finally shared a personal comic that I'd been sitting on for years. I genuinely grew my storytelling skills. And I've made the most money that I've ever made with my art. If you had told me I had done any of these things back when I was crying my eyes out in the woods on New Year's, I would not have believed you at all. I'm forever grateful to T2 for taking this chance on me, but I'm also really grateful for them showing me what's possible. It was really nice to have someone see the potential in my work before I could, but I would have loved to have that clarity and that perspective on my own. So here's what I tell my past self and what I'd like to tell you. The first thing is to put yourself out there, take up space, and be seen. If I hadn't put any of those things out onto the internet, I had my own website, and I was just publishing projects, posting random drawings whenever I felt like I had them. If I hadn't done any of that, I wouldn't have been seen. There are a lot of ways that you can apply for representation, but in my case, I didn't. And I really think a lot of that came down to just putting myself out there and being seen. I didn't have a ton of followers on Instagram, any social media platforms back in that time. I still don't. And I'm getting paying gigs. On top of that, I would add on and say to make work for yourself first and to really be your own biggest fan. I've heard a lot of creatives that I look up to talk about this, but you have to have self-driven projects. I think a lot of the passion and interesting ideas that you come up with are going to come from spending time with ideas and concepts and subject matter that feels interesting to you. When you're interested in the work, it shows in the rest of your work. And I think that that is a really great example to show rather than a kind of empty prompt, which can also be really helpful and you can show up in those things too. But I think a lot of self can be seen in those projects that are self-guided and come from a deeper place. The other thing is that you don't need permission. You don't need permission to make. You don't need permission to share. The only person that you need permission from is from yourself to allow yourself to make and play. So much of the publishing world is about waiting and hoping and toiling and kind of working on your projects. And I think if you give yourself permission to just experiment and know that you're going to probably try a lot of things that aren't going to make it through and you're okay with that workshopping. You also can't please everyone, and you really shouldn't try. My art style has always been described as being very cartoony. It goes really well with like animation styles. It's been compared to Adventure Time and Gravity Falls. A lot of the work that I saw and I see in children's publishing tends to be very painterly and very like tactile, and I was worried in the beginning that I wouldn't find a place for my art and my art style. I have gotten a lot of positive feedback and also some critique, and the projects just kind of find you. I think it's very tempting to try to check and fill all of those boxes and feel like you need to have a portfolio filled with all of these different art styles to become a viable candidate, but that really is not the case. I think this also applies to storytelling. If you think that you don't have a story to tell, you probably do. Journaling and keeping lists and organizing myself with a lot of personal reflection, personal writing, has actually helped me connect with a lot of the stories and ideas that I find interesting. I think it's also important to look at the stuff that you consume that feels interesting, and that will shed a lot of light on the kinds of stories that you're drawn to and that you might want to tell. Worst case, you fail and you learn something new. Best case, you unlock a whole new way to express yourself. The most important thing is to just keep going. I feel like there's so much content out there of artists constantly making it and making it and making it. And I think the real important thing to remember is to keep trying and to keep producing for yourself. And eventually something will stick because you're interested and you're committed. There's so much about what's going on in my life right now that wouldn't have been possible if I had given up and I had stopped trying and stopped making for myself and just sharing for fun. Not everything has to amount to gallery representation and agent representation, but I assume if you're watching this video, you're interested in that. But do not be discouraged by radio silence or months or even years that go by where it seems like nothing is happening, because something is always happening as long as you're showing up and you're present in your practice. Thanks for listening to this video. This is a story that I feel very strongly about because I always wondered how the heck these things happened for people. And I think it's really important to note that it is a combination of right time, right place, a little bit of luck, and a lot of hard work once the opportunity presents itself to you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment where you're at in your journey. Comment what you do. I'm really looking forward to building community on here, and I would love to have you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.